I'll do that next time. I'm not running on also.
Lock them into positions of hopelessness and helplessness. The government gives them the drugs, builds bigger prisons, passes a 3-strike law, and then wants us to sing God Bless America. No, no, no. Not God Bless America. God Damn America. That's in the Bible for killing innocent people. God Damn America for treating us citizens as less than human. God Damn America as long as she tries to act like she is God and she is supreme.
Okay, what's up, folks? You heard it here first. Trump is dead. Serious about the economy. Trump has dyed his hair even more yellow. That'd be cool if he had like blue hair or something. Be a cool Trump era. Did you? I'm Jake Flores. That's Andrew Lee.
Andrew J. Lee here. Old people sometimes have blue hair. I believe that's why Marge has blue hair in The Simpsons, right? Because it's like that used to be a thing. Old people have blue hair. No,
she's not supposed to be an old lady. She's young and hot.
But he's based.
I don't know why she has blue hair. Is that why Milhouse has blue hair? Is he an old man who's a child?
Maybe. I do like how they made the skin yellow, which is like there's logic to that, right? We do look kind of yellow, Caucasians, and then
there's a reason
blue hair.
Yellow.
Tell me the lore. I know I probably learned this at one point, but what is it?
I think it's like they sent it off now. It has something to do with the animation process, I remember, because they said that to animate stuff, at least the way it used to happen. I'm not sure how it goes anymore. I think it's computers now, but used to have to ship off like this story and the fucking, what do you call them, like storyboards and stuff to like to some, I think it was like China or something, another country where they would like animate everything at just at sweatshop rates or whatever. Real fucked up, and that's why that's the reason for a lot of strange stuff in animation. I mean, maybe that's why they're yellow. Do you follow me? Okay.
I had that thought and I muted myself mentally.
I'm gonna look it up. Why are the Simpsons yellow? Jamie, look that up.
I checked that. Well, I'm more curious about why the hair is blue, because that's it. They just make that part of the world that people just have blue hair naturally occurring. It's like a thing that you just grow, which I respect.
Yeah.
Simpsons.
It's just part of it's part of the universe. Some people have blue hair.
Yeah.
It's not because they're all old.
Yeah.
Are you there?
Yes, we're on some kind of lag. I don't know exactly what's going on, but it's like
it's because I overpowered my computer by asking it why the Simpsons are yellow, and it's doing AI to try to fucking literally. I just wanted to Google this, and it gave me the AI overview. So according to an extremely unreliable robot, the Simpsons are yellow to be more distinctive and recognizable to viewers channel surfing, as the bright color would catch the eye and make them think that their TV was miscalibrated. This is fucking stupid. The idea originated from an animator, an idea Matt Groening immediately agreed with. Additionally, the yellow hue provides a symbolic representation of the everyman and dysfunctional, abnormal nature of the show's depiction and family life. Bullshit. I think that's not what I heard. But then I probably just heard some kind of piece of urban fiction. Okay, whatever. I don't know. But point is, everyone on Twitter thinks Trump is dead. To be honest with you, I couldn't really get into this thing everyone was doing this week. He's not dead, right? It would be cool if he's dead, but it's like this is like nothing's gonna happen, right? This is just people entertaining themselves. You might even get a tinfoil hat on enough to think, do they just start memes like this when they're trying to distract us from the fact that they're going to try to overthrow the Venezuelan government pretty soon? Maybe. That's a thing. We should probably do a deep dive on soon at some point, because they're restarting the like Juan Guaido machine.
I saw that tweet, those had some ships heading towards Venezuela. Is that confirmed? That's like a legit operation that I guess the Navy has going.
I don't know. Let's put a pin in it and come back to it in a future episode if it happens. But I read something about it and did not question that it may be bullshit. But you might be right. Sounds like something Trump would do, in my opinion.
If he died, that is, I mean, in his, that was something John Bolton wanted to do when he was in the first Trump administration. I wonder, I would not put it past Trump to try and knock off Maduro, but that was a tension they had, right? Bolton was a little more hawkish, so maybe he wouldn't want to do
Trump
that.
has personally suicide bombed Caracas with himself.
Yeah. I mean, if I don't say this about many people, partially for political reasons. Like, it is genuinely like not good to think of things as like, oh, if we just kill this one, or if this one person died, rather, excuse me, then everything would be solved. That's not a good way to look at things. However, this is one case in which just demonstrably in every single way, the world would be so much better off if this one guy was no longer alive. Like, and I don't say that about really anyone else. We're heading towards maybe the first time in human history where there has been a global recession triggered just by one guy being an idiot. That could be around the corner.
Remarkable.
Yeah,
it's inspiring. What one person can do.
yeah.
I don't know. What do you think? Do you think JD Vance is like worse if he if Trump dies and then Vance is the president?
I think worst case scenario, he's a much less effective Trump. Like, he's just not able to do. I mean, people were talking about like a more competent Trump, and that being what we need to worry about in the future. And I think there's some truth to that. I don't know that Vance is that, though. He had literally a year to 2 years of actual government experience. This is like an airport book author who got put in the vice presidency. So I don't know if I would call him the more competent Trump. I feel like it's the opposite, and he obviously he doesn't have the same juice, so he wouldn't be able to command the Republican base, who might get mad at him for things in a way that they just haven't been with Trump, except for a few people with Epstein stuff. And then best case scenario, and I think there's actually a case to be made that he genuinely views himself like he's read Machiavelli or something and thinks like, well, this is all the terrible compromises I had to make to become vice president. That's all going to be worth it, because when I'm president, I'm just going to do like centrist stuff, and I'll reunite the country. So like best case scenario, he's just like a never Trump Republican or a moderate like Mitt Romney type. But
really, you don't think he's like a far right freak? You don't think he's going to try to impose like theocracy and shit?
That's the worst case scenario, is he actually does believe that stuff, but he's not. I don't think he would be as competent at like pulling it off as Trump. Like, I think he wouldn't be able to keep the Republican Party together in the same way as Trump. But this is all cope, right? Because like Trump's not gonna die in all likelihood, or we can't like proceed assuming that that's gonna like make all the problems better, right? He in all likelihood will serve out his term, and there's gonna be an open question as to whether or not he tries to stay after that.
It'd be funny if he ran again and then won and then like died, like when he was accepting, breaking the entire rules of the country apart. It would be so cool if he died like by having a heart attack, like on stage, on mic, because he's always talking.
I mean, like, it almost happened.
His fucking, I mean, I guess when he got shot,
it would have been a perfect way for him to go out. And again, not endorsing assassinating the president, but that as far as the arc of Trump's life, the story would have ended perfectly there. That would have been just, if he's thinking about the Trump movie, you've kind of fucked up by moving your head the wrong way.
True. Yeah. Now he's got to like continue it's like one of those movies where you thought it was over, and then it's like, wait, it's not.
Oh,
There's a third post-credits Sinners thing. What's with Trump? What's happening? When do we get to leave the movie theater?
yeah.
He, I kind of, I don't know. I know he's like particularly crazy and evil and stuff, but like, I don't really see this stuff as like as boiling down to the individual as much. Like I think like what's so misunderstood about Trump is that he is the competent Trump now, because the first presidency he had was like this weird adjustment period where the entire machine tried to figure out like, how do we orient with this guy as the figurehead,
Right.
and this but then they kind of have that worked out. He has experience now, which I think is really funny, because like when he was running against Hillary Clinton, it's like she is qualified, and now it's like, should I vote for him because he's qualified? He's been the president before, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not a good fucking argument, but it does mean he's going to do things more effectively. But I see him as the figurehead for a bunch of like the forces that you get yelled about in the boardroom in what is that movie, Newsroom, or whatever the hell we watched. News Radio, nope. Network. That's I always think about that scene where he's like, there are no countries, there are no states, there are multinational corporations, and they control you and me. You will atone. But like, those things are the real leaders, and then when they switch out the fucking president, those things just work through them. So like, they've kind of figured out how to work through Trump, and if we get JD Vance, I don't know, to some extent there's a readjustment, but he's like more normal than Trump, so probably not. I think things just slowly get worse, and it kind of doesn't matter like who is in charge. It does matter a little bit which party's in charge, but that even, I mean, how much difference does that make? Wait, I'm sorry, hold on. I just received my paycheck from Chorus. It actually would be better if the Democrats were in charge. Don't you agree, Anders Lee?
Chiming in as a member of the chorus, that yes, vote blue no matter who. It is funny how that's the name of the company. It feels like too on the nose, that it's literally called Chorus. But despite, there's now been two sort of micro scandals about under the table influencer payoffs that I have kind of been implicated in, or at least like theoretically it makes sense. Like the first was the Russian thing. I was getting paid above board, then over the table. Yeah. Maybe perhaps with the wrong address on my W-2, which is a problem I'm still dealing with now. Anyway, and then the other one, this broke this week, the Dem Ops influencer payoff thing. That was a scandal. Not a scandal, but that's something people hurled at me actually when I was at RT, and I would say things that were like maybe a little different from like what a lot of the viewership expected, who generally were actually, this kind of ties into what we're going to talk about later today. Just we're kind of generally just against the quote unquote establishment, which has a lot of overlap with leftism and socialism, but not always. So I got called a DNC shill. I believe Alex Patak was emailed by someone inquiring about my being paid off by the DNC. He thought this person thought I was a DNC operative.
So he asked Alex?
Yeah, that's the part I still don't understand, why he went to him. I guess he was my manager, and ultimately he's like still has the internalized American like complain to the manager thing.
He's not your manager anymore.
No,
you're a free agent now.
Yeah. But who's not a free agent? Anybody who takes money from the Democratic establishment, which is really what this is. That's my main question with this. It's still hard to parse who exactly is funding it. Like we know this dark money group is giving out the money, but where do they get their money? Is my question. But they're funding all of these influencers, people like Olivia,
Olivia
Texas
Juliana, the Joe Rogan of the left, the literally that was the strategy, is that people are going to, young, angry, misogynistic white men are going to flock to Olivia Giuliana the same way they flock to Joe Rogan, and that's going to win the Democrats votes or whatever. Completely insane. She sucks really hard. She's just a lame like Democrat influencer. There's a guy named David Pacman, which is sure, why not? Pacman, I guess. I can't read it as anything but Pac-Man.
He was a more progressive. He's someone who's like, I feel like moved to the center over the years. From what I gather, I was never really a regular viewer. I know his studio where he records has basically the same design as the Majority Report studio. He's kind of like a Dan Ninen of this sort of like leftist content creation, although now he's just like totally hook, line, and sinker part of the establishment. But he I remember the Venezuela, or excuse me, not Venezuela. Although maybe Venezuela as well. It seems like that was something he was maybe towing kind of the imperialist line on. But in Bolivia in 2019, he was like, "Let's slow down." And he's one of these people who was like, before you call it a coup, just like let's just read the definition of coup 9 times, and then just think about like how everything kind of is like subjective today, man. When there's a fucking fascist coup going on, he was one of these, these few content creators who were sort of, towing the establishment line. I don't know if he was getting money back then or not, but certainly these are people who don't have anything critical to say about, seems really any elected Democrat or party official.
David Pacman on 10/20/2023 tweets, Hamas appeared to bomb their own hospital. Israel blamed. Hashtag David Pacman. He ends the tweet. He ends the tweet with hashtag David Pacman, his own name.
Did he get bombed, or was he responsible for bombing? Like, why insert yourself into this scenario, sir?
Let's just always be branding. He and one at Feral Jokes Jake Flores responded to him on 11:17 a.m. 10/20/23. Dumbass. So I've been on top of this guy for a couple of years now, it turns out, because he has been like this for a minute. Well, there are a couple other people who got called out in this article. So the article was by Taylor Lorenz in Wired, who she's a nice person, I think. I don't even want to blow up her shit about this too hard, but it's very funny to me because like a week ago she said something about masks and people were really mad at her because it sounded like she was, well, it doesn't fucking matter. She's talking about masks and she was saying like, I was at a fucking alt-right thing accidentally and they were like way more nice about the masks than people on the left are, which is like, I don't know what the fucking point of that as a take is. But it sounds like she was just blowing off steam. Anyways, for a week, everyone was like, Taylor Lorenz unmasked, she's a Nazi. And she did a pretty good job of like leaving that in the dustbin because this now she's good again. Because she's fucking owned a bunch of liberals, and they deserve to be owned. And this is, real. This is one of those stories that like people's takes on it are very interesting to me because I'm like, did you not think this was happening? Like, I'm good. Someone should quantify this and like, write it down and document it. But if you didn't think that fucking pundits and influencers and stuff were being paid by people who have political interests in mind, you are naive. You should understand that they all do, and that we do. We get dark money from Glenn Danzig sends us dark money to perpetuate his dark.
It has ink on it. It's not very much. It just is literally dark.
He mails us like a $5 bill that he's spilled the evil ink all over, and you can't actually use it because it doesn't look like $1 anymore. But every once in a while I'll promote one of his songs and his kitty litter brand. Buy Danzig kitty litter. get in the sports book and bet on Danzig, bet DSI, whatever. No, we don't have anyone. We don't have dark money. We don't have sponsors. We literally just have you guys. So congratulations. You are
money.
We have
LIGHT. Yeah, we would like it to be a little, not necessarily dark, but at least heavier.
Right. Yeah, either you guys continue to support us, or if you are listening from Chorus Incorporated or whatever the hell it's called, consider throwing us some dark money. We'll change our entire belief system. So actually, you know what? Let's talk about this a little bit. I watched a video, watched a response video that Olivia Juliana put out about the Taylor Lorenz Wired article, and it's like I don't know, like a TikTok or something. Like she's talking in front of the article and stuff, or she's just talking. I don't know, but it's like an epic clapback where she really tears into it and goes piece by piece and supposedly debunks it, and she doesn't. And you'll notice that her and Pac-Man and all these other people, they keep referring to the article as thoroughly debunked.
Yeah.
Will not explain how or why or what that means. They're just trying to establish reality that it's debunked. It's not. And then they go on to explain that I guess in their mind it's not dark money because it's coming from a supposedly non-partisan, supposedly non-political organization. Olivia Juliana's explanation was that it's seed money, and every journalist needs seed money to start an enterprise, and sort of rationalizes that way until she's eventually talking about like, and someday my family, I'm going to raise children, and all it's just about her, right? And like I need this money so that I can get through college and start a family and start a life and all this stuff. And that's irrelevant. I don't give a fuck about your hypothetical kids, right? But it skirts the issue of like, okay, well, why did you get the seed money, right? Why not us? Why doesn't everyone with every different point of view get seed money? And she claims that she lists a bunch of the other people that got outed in the article and says that they're critical of the Democratic Party all the time. So you can't say that this is the Democratic Party paying people to promote it. And I just read you a tweet from one of those fucking people. So if you think that person is critical of the Democratic Party, I got a fucking boat to sell you.
I mean, if they're critical, it's always like Democratic Party needs to fight more. They need to be the jock, right? We're having too much theater kid energy. We need to be jocks, and that's the problem with the Democratic Party is like we're not fitting in with the right high school archetype or something like that. It's always like, and when you talk to liberals, ones who are really committed, there's like a reflexive aversion to any kind of introspection. It's always just like, well, the world has failed us because we don't explain enough. We're really smart, but someone actually said this to me, these words, like the problem is we're really smart and we don't dumb down our really high level policy wishes to the unwashed masses, and that's the problem. It's an explanation problem. It's not an actual problem of content and actual.
That's why I don't get any matches on Tinder. It's because I'm really smart and I don't dumb down what I'm saying to the plebeian women on the dating apps. That's a perfectly reasonable explanation that doesn't appear to have any motive or bias or anything, right? It's like, yeah, no, their idea of someone that's critical of the Democratic Party is like the Kamala Harris ran an excellent campaign, but ultimately fell short. Let's talk about it, right? Pod Save America. Wow. Hey, Todd, don't be so subversive. All right. We're not turning into a radical left show here. We're sensible and center. She ran an excellent campaign and Trump fell long. All right, coming up after the break, more of that. Like it's, but this is why I fucking reading all this media stuff, Marshall McLuhan, fucking Chomsky, Parenti, it's really good because you see stuff like that, because that is that's a moment where this system can defend itself by allowing a little bit of dissent. You can allow someone to criticize the fucking Democratic Party from within the Democratic Party machine to a tiny extent. That way, now you have the line, hey, we're critical of the Democratic Party, so you can't call this dark money, right? So she went on to explain that the chorus gets its money through some other part of this network from a larger organization that Taylor Lorenz ultimately gets some of her funding from. And therefore, this big umbrella thing, if you go all the way back and look at that, then that proves that they both get funding from the same thing. There's some fucking holes in this, right? Taylor Lorenz doesn't get money through Chorus. Seems like she gets some funding for I don't fucking even know how it works, but it's overt, right? It's not secret, and the Chorus thing is secret. And their kind of point of view on this is to scoff at the idea that it's called dark money. If you've ever read Dark Money by Jane Meyer, this is it. Like, this is what the whole book is going through, these like fucking just obliquely named nonprofit think tank organizations that are shell companies, and they're just a massive like network that is, your eyes glaze over when you look at the big map of them all connected by lines and dots and stuff like that. And they just serve to move money around that can't be sent in one paycheck legally, because that would be technically like bribing a person to say a thing, right? So you just have to circumvent it through this like bureaucratic arcane system. And the term for that is dark money. Like, that's what that is. So this is 100% valid to look at a political entity fucking paying people. And it's weird because in defending all this, they A, deny it, and then B, defend it as if like, why, you know what I mean? I thought it wasn't true. Well, why are you defending this? They go as far as to say it's not dark money, it's just funding, and also that it's you need to do this, and that it helps journalism that supposedly is just good on its own merit. And I mean, this all, like, if you've been paying attention to what the Democrats have been saying, especially the last like 6 months or so, it's pretty clear like why they're doing this. They lost to Trump, and even during the fucking Harris Waltz campaign, they were doing stuff like having Tim Waltz go and play video games on like streams and stuff like that, because in their minds, they can't look at this and see it as a failure of policy or like messaging or whatever, to use one of their stupid wonky terms. They'll look at Zoran Mamdani and go, why do people like him? I don't understand, right? And pretend like it could be anything in the world other than like the shit he's saying he's gonna do if you elect him, right? But with their own people, they just utterly will not change policy or gear policy towards anyone but their donor class. So the way to like narratively work around that is to hire consultants to wheel a big graph into the room and look at things through the lens of demographics. And what they've said is that we lost young men, basically, mostly white men, but not even, right? It's just like dudes don't fucking like the Democratic Party, and they all seem to be attracted to this like manosphere Joe Rogan stuff, which is how you get this idea of like, well, we need the Joe Rogan on the left, we need alt media, or not alt media, just media. So instead of thinking about that and thinking about what cause alienation, what causes people to follow the Rogan sphere and to ask questions that then get answered incorrectly by the Rogan sphere, instead of looking at this in 3 dimensions at all, it's just very blatant and just very flat. And it's like, oh, they like people that talk on fucking computers, so we'll hire someone who talks on the computers. And it's a fucking waste of time and money, in my opinion. I would love to be getting $8,000 a month, which is what apparently she was getting, to do this. But it's a blatant, like, it's a really fucking misguided, dumb, blatant attempt to just copy what they think happened on the right wing. And it's insulting to everyone involved because it like proposes that politics is just like two teams and who goes out and just like convinces enough people to vote for their team wins. And that, I mean, the only way to really look at the world like that is to assume that people are very stupid, that you're smart and they're stupid, and you can just sort of like corral them and wrangle them. And just like thinking of people as numbers and stuff instead of like human beings who have needs, and you're fucking proposing to run the entire world. So, you know, why don't you speak to those fucking needs?
Right. It was interesting to me that this began as a group chat. Lorenz's article starts that in a private group chat in June, dozens of these influencers talked about in taking advantage of it, a quote unquote enticing opportunity. So this literally began as a group chat where people were like, do you want to make $8,000 a month? Which I'm not the brightest crayon in the box. I'm in a lot of group chats like that too. I get added to them all the time on WhatsApp, or just my regular text. Somebody says crypto is going to make you $8,000 a month, and I block those numbers immediately. I've been burned too many times in the past. Maybe I should start, because if I was in this group chat, granted, I'm not one of these dem influencers, I would have I would have been, sussed out immediately. But they all bought it, and they I guess they had good instincts, because they get this contract sent to them from Chorus, the company, and it has some strings attached. There is extensive secrecy about payment disclosure, and there are literal restrictions on what you can post and what you can't post. But they have Wired got a copy of like some screenshots from this group chat, and there's someone who asks, should we send a joint email with all of our email addresses, or are we just going to send things separately and hope they change everything for everyone? Because they're trying to get a sense of the details and all be on the same page, and they all want like a good deal. So there's some talk of ironically unionizing, and there's a quote from Newsies, the musical, from someone who a public defender and is a big influencer because she had been on Survivor. The person that's aware of Eliza Orleans, and she says, "We're a union just by saying so," which is a line from Newsies. But I wonder if there's a discussion on that order now that they've been outed, is taking all this money, and basically letting their message be molded by this like dark entity that we still don't really know what it is. But there was another funny point in the article, in which there's a person named Susan Lambert who calls herself a Regina George liberal. That's one of the people. That's a character from Mean Girls. I guess we are the girl who's told she looks like Danny DeVito leftist, in this sort of schema of the media sphere.
Oh my God, Danny DeVito, I love your work.
Yeah. And then there's there's a person who runs an American Girl doll themed pro DNC meme account, which, like, why do you need to give this person money? Like, they've already maxed out how much they can.
Democrats lost 100% of the real girl doll enthusiasts to Trump, and it's a demographic, right? So you need to convince that demographic to vote blue. We're down. All right, we get it. She's a big plastic doll, lives in your house. Cool, Jack.
It's a battle. I mean, to me, the American Girl doll is very lib coded, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's like some conservative fans of that product.
I feel like they're all like blonde, like, and I mean, you can be blonde and be a liberal, but like the Sydney Sweeney, like, American woman ideal thing of like big titted blonde red lipstick ditzy bimbo, it's a kind of a conservative like ideal. And there's nothing wrong with it if you look like that. In fact, it's quite good. A lot of people would say.
American Girl doll, though, that to me, they're prepubescent.
I'm gonna Google American Girl doll.
American Girl doll.
Why
It's
are
like
American Girl doll yellow?
it's like they're girls from different points in history. So this girl was survived the War of 1812. Her house was hit with a cannon or something.
Oh
like
my
that.
God, I was totally off. I thought you were talking about I thought the story was about somebody who ran a real doll company. Those like life-size mannequins.
Oh no,
and shit. Oh, American Girl doll is so much more normal.
Yeah. And that's lib coded to me.
Sorry.
Like you don't need.
I literally thought that's what I read that story yesterday, and I was like, "Wow." These are lib coded. These are because they're diverse and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and anybody who's buying an American Girl doll, I feel like they don't need to be reminded to vote. Like it's and that's not a knock against people. My sister had them. Nothing wrong with. I liked them too. You got to read the different perspectives. This girl was in New York City when Black Friday happened in 1929 and has a dress made of ticker tape, like all kinds of, Persian Gulf War Barbie, or not Barbie, an American Girl doll. She was there with was like a reporter in the Gulf War. That could be, there's all kinds of possibilities. They have interesting dolls.
If you work for the DNC and you're listening, you need to win over the real girl dolls. Lars and the Real Girl. You need to watch a documentary called Lars and the Real Girl. Men like that, I guarantee they didn't vote for you. All right. And there's dozens of them that you could be pulling into your numbers. And I think what we need is a sensible, just make it Kamala, I guess, or make it Sleepy Joe too. Why not? Make them all. Make a Hillary. And that'll help you tap in, because politics is just about coming up with graphs of demographics of people and then going, why don't I go shake some keys at them, and then they'll be a Democrat.
I mean, also too, and this might tie into our discussion a little bit as well. There's an Occupy Democrats, which is a Twitter account I'm sure many of our listeners are familiar with. It's, I guess, started in 20. At some point we'll have to dig through the history of Occupy Democrats, but they are on the take as well. Surprise, surprise. Which they're just, if you've ever heard the term rad lib and like wondered what that means, then Occupy Democrats is a good sort of keystone and keyhole into that. But yeah, I'm sure a lot of people were disappointed that they're not actually fighting the 1%.
Oh yeah, because it's like Occupy. Yeah, but I mean, God, like if you're surprised by any of this stuff, like that should be the lesson here, So you should assume that most things are motivated this way, even when they're like not officially, like what Olivia Giuliano was trying to say about like them. But they allow you to be critical of the Democrats and stuff like that. Is like, I mean, in theory, maybe yes, but things are motivated by these fucking massive forces, and also by the filters from manufacturing consent. Like everything comes out shaped a certain way. It is childish to believe that we live in a media environment that just doesn't have obstacles and filters. It's that it's just free speech. Anyone can say anything. And that's how we ended up at having the most popular talking points be what they are, is because they're just, it's a populist, democratic fucking thing. No, things get said a certain way for a certain reason, because fucking the powers that be benefit from them being that way. Don't be naive. And it's not even like, I mean, it's bad. I fucking think it's really bad, but I think the worst problem about the media being shaped that way isn't even that it's shaped that way. It's that we live in this massive illusion about it, that it's objective and that it's the fucking fourth estate and all this stuff. Just be an adult, like be responsible about the way you consume media and be skeptical, and you'll be way better off. But I mean, fucking, it's weird because when you're a kid, you hear people say stuff like that, and you hear about all this like responsible citizenry and stuff like that, and then you like become an adult, and all the old people are the ones that are like fucking naive and stupid, and they just believe everything the TV box tells them, and it just like shapes their reality. And you're like, wow, now I'm the adult and you're the kid. Like, no, you shouldn't watch this. It is you're not mature enough to watch this TV show, Well, of course these people were getting dark money. That's how politics works. It's not like the right wing only does it. It's the Democratic Party is just the other side of the capitalist class. Well, right? Why wouldn't it? It would be silly to assume they don't do shit that the fucking Republicans do. They'll do the same shit.
Yeah. Feel free to throw us a bone, though, if you are out there. Chorus, now that you're busted.
For the love of God, I will give up everything I believe in. Just send me that sweet $8,000 paycheck. Ooh, man, $2,000 a week. What the fuck I would do with that? I'll become a whatever. Can I get more money if I become a Nazi? I'll do that too. Fuck it. Rebrand. Pod Save America from the Jews. That's the new name of the show.
The best option we have is to work with the government in a secret capacity. Like we don't get dark money. I mean, they used to do that, I guess, ramparts. But as far as we know, there are no leftist podcasts bankrolled by the CIA. They just get people to flip and rat out.
I mean, there's a lot to be said there, because like the thing is like this is also kind of funny in light of like all of the speculation about like Peter Thiel money and stuff like that goes into like the post-left podcasts and the right wing and stuff, and it does just kind of seem like everyone in play that's a certain level of success is just like, who are you getting funded by, right? There's just competing, there's just puppets for like competing bigger forces or whatever. And also when you look at these things and you're a show like us, it's important to keep this stuff in mind so you don't think like we suck. I mean, listen, I know this isn't the best show in the world, all right? Not trying to say we're like really great, but it's like, yeah, no, it's not an even playing field to be competing on. People are being funded by things, right? And we are not. So if the show's bad, it's because we have virtue and ethics, not, because we're lazy and didn't feel like doing something for the twice a week for 7 straight years. I went off about Dracula on the bonus episode last week, so fucking listen, I put my whole ass into that one. Please check it out if you enjoy long, weird essay style podcasts about fucked up philosophical stuff. And no one funded it. No dark money. I didn't get any money from Dracula or from Bram Stoker's estate or from the Nosferatu people. Nothing. So suck on that and pay us money if you like our show so that you can be dark money and we can overthrow Olivia Giuliani's media enterprise, whatever the fuck her name is.
Yeah.
All right. We've got a great guest today. It has nothing to do with what we're just talking about. We're talking to Jarrod Shanahan, returning to the show. You probably remember him because he writes a book every day of his life. He's got so many books. What the fuck am I doing with my life? No dark money for him either, right? Just out there making content. Insane. New book is called Every Fire Needs a Little Bit of Help. It's a series of essays about activism over the last 10, 15 years or so, and it's really good. So let's talk to Jarrod. Okay, welcome back to the show, Jarrod Shanahan, back with another book. I feel like a couple months after the last book. You were a book writing fiend, my friend. How do you do it?
Erotic symptom.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Just can't stop, huh? Well, that's cool. I think you
It's
write them faster than I can read them, homie.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming back. Jarrod's new book is called Every Fire Needs a Little Bit of Help, which is a line from a Chumbawamba song. And if you're listening and you don't know that Chumbawamba is cool, should go on that little adventure today, that little like rabbit hole on the internet, and learn about Chumbawamba, because the story behind them is it's really interesting. Everyone knows them from I Get Knocked Down, I Get Up Again, Tub Thumping, and it's my understanding that it was like they were like kind of a Crass-esque, like loose collective type situation, like an anarchist thing, and they wrote that song kind of as a like a joke almost, to see if they could make a pop song get like famous, and then it did. So is that what we're dealing with here? Is that why why'd you name your book after a Chumbawamba line? Let me just ask you that.
It's called branding. I want 40-year-old anarchists to buy my book. No, it's I think it's a brilliant formulation, and it syncs up with my understanding of political activity. So I come from kind of an anarchist tradition, but I'm also very interested in the subjective side of things and what individual people and small groups of people can do to kind of kick shit off. So the notion that every fire needs a little bit of help actually fits very well with my conception of mass struggle, which is if you are a part of a project that's aiming to control the course of world history and steer it with precision, then you are in for a lot of heartbreak. But if you relate to mass struggle as something that's largely outside of your control, with key moments that you could possibly throw yourself into and help steer one way or the other, then I think you're dealing with a much more sophisticated and realistic understanding of what mass politics requires.
Interesting. I feel the same way. I think song is called "Give the Anarchist a Cigarette." So sometimes the fire is just to give someone a cigarette. Cool. So tell me about this book, man. Series of essays about just just being in the streets and stuff, and organizing and activism.
So it's 10 years of essays. It kicks off in 2014 when I was out for the really exciting street rebellion in New York City that came to be known as Black Lives Matter, and that's the kind of kickoff. And then it brings together essays from all different types of struggles and different nerdy interests that I have. PM Press put it out, and they were really cool about allowing me to really showcase a broad variety of my work for the last decade. So there's a section of stuff from the Rikers Island project, and I was on here with David Campbell talking with you all about City Time. There's I think 4 essays in the book that are kind of like the demos of City Time. Just stuff that I wrote when I was finding my footing, working on different themes, working on different material. And I generally don't leave much on the cutting room floor. I just publish whatever I come up with, and then if I want to do it differently, I do it again. There's a second section, or there's another section where I talk a lot about horror films and horror themes in popular culture, and I think that's the longest of the book. And it was the most fun for me to write because I wasn't like getting fucking shot at and sent to jail and stuff.
How does horror tie in to all this thematically? I'm a big horror head.
Yes, but I am more interested in why normal people are interested in it. Like, I know why I am into Hellraiser, because I'm like a fucking weirdo, and like cool. I'm like a freak, and like my friends are freaks, and like
yeah.
But when I see like The Walking Dead is like the most popular show in America, which it was for a really long time, I become very curious. Like, what are people getting out of this? What are people seeing in this programming that helps them make sense of their lives? Or that, I mean, you could say that people are entertained, but lots of things are entertaining. And it just so happens that in the last 10 or 15 years, a vastly disproportionate amount of television, film, and just regular popular culture has revolved around themes of apocalypse, horror, impending demise, all the rest of it. Mm-hmm. So those essays really they try to unpack the significance of this just really, using a kind of hackneyed phrase that's often attributed to Gramsci, I say the morbid symptoms of our time.
Mm-hmm.
And so that it may seem at first like that section is kind of out of place in a book that's about, mass struggle and all these like rebellions and then the rise of Trumpism and all the rest of it. I really see that as like actually a kind of cornerstone of the moment that we're in.
The last episode of our show, I talked about Dracula for an hour before I even got into like Hamas. So this is right up our alley. Let's talk about zombies a little bit. That's interesting, man. The zombie thing is really fascinating to me because like it's kind of like red state shit. Like I remember really liking zombies as a kid and kind of really enjoying the genre. I remember there was like an overload at one point. There was too much zombie stuff. And I got kind of burnt out. And small towns, the culture is kind of a year or two behind the cities and stuff. And whenever I drive across the country, I always notice like stuff like at shooting ranges, there's like you can buy your own custom thing to shoot at, and there's often like zombies on them and stuff. And there's like this, for whatever reason, that like sense of humor is an outcome of culture in those parts of the country. There's like that joke. It's like kind of hard to pin down, but everyone kind of has done the stupid "what would you do in a zombie apocalypse" conversation and stuff. And it's really big out there in the sticks. And I kind of wonder, if you can do that thing where you try to like pin that to or you try to come up with a reason for it or something, or just sort of speculate, like, what about that? What does that say about, people out in the big spacious part of America who aren't in cities, who drive their big SUVs and stuff? And what do you think it says about their conception of the world?
Well, I'm not the first one to say this. My buddy Travis Lineman, who wrote this awesome book called The Horror of Police, has a great line where he says, if you can kill a zombie, you can kill anyone. And I think that we could go through like the long history of the zombie genre. It originated as anti-colonial, as kind of an anti-colonial parable in Haiti. The zombie masters are, you know all this, right? Or like a metaphor for the colonial powers and all the rest of it. And the original, Night of the Living Dead and subsequent zombie films had like some kind of leftist content. But the Walking Dead and the way that the genre lives on now, especially around this idea, zombie apocalypse, getting ready to kill zombies at shooting ranges. I mean, what you're really talking about is imagining just mass murder of lower class people.
Right. It's like it's overlaps with like the people who fantasize about someone breaking into their house so they can pull their gun out from behind the bed and stuff.
Yeah, and I think I've noticed, I don't really read social media very often, and I don't really honestly read the news very much, especially compared to you all who are like in the soup, But I've noticed in the last like couple of years in my neighborhood, so this is highly anecdotal, everybody's driving these absolutely massive fucking trucks and SUVs that just get higher and higher and higher off the ground. To such a point where it's like, I think like I used to drive a truck, and I think that you should need a CDL to drive like a lot of these like the new Fords and the Tahoes, and like I'm sure I'm not the first person to notice this, but it's like, to me this is like a reaction to 2020 and the rebellion, and there's this widespread conception among Americans, especially if you own a little piece of property, that masses of people are coming for your shit. They're coming for your family, and you basically need to be able to mow down a large crowd of underclass people who are coming for you. And the Walking Dead, I think, is a really important part of that puzzle, because it bridges that. It came onto the scene kind of right after the 2008 crash. And it like the zombie genre, I think the the key to its visceral appeal is that it takes these kind of middle class characters and it exposes them to the contagion of lower class people. Right? All they just scratch you or bite you, and all of a sudden you're in tattered clothing, you're wandering around aimlessly, you know, only satisfying your most base instincts. It's like it's this notion of kind of contagion of
Hey, you're having a great time.
yeah. Some of them look like
That's what I did today.
But it's like ketamine, right? But I think the 2008 is a really important part of the story because it's like you have a lot of people lost their status or became aware of how revocable their, like, you know, precarious lower middle class status was, and the zombie genre just dramatizes that. Like you have to kill the underclass or it's going to suck you into it.
Yeah, it's like a survivalist sovereign citizen type shit. Lends itself really well to that. It's interesting because it doesn't start off that way, the genre. It definitely molds into that, and that says something about where people's heads are at.
Yeah, and you mentioned sovereign citizen. Actually, like Sheriff Rick in The Walking Dead is the leader of the post-apocalyptic society, and it might be a coincidence, but I mean that is the ideal society imagined by like the Bundys and the posse comitatus, survivalist kind of militia guys who valorize basically local governance by like white elites, and in their utopia, the highest authority anywhere is the local sheriff. So it's right. This kind of like anarchism for propertied white men.
No, it really is. I mean, I thought about that a lot when I was watching Deadwood a year ago, and like kind of remembering people I knew who watched it and liked it a lot, who were like libertarians, who kind of like, to them, the tragedy on that show is like that big business comes in eventually and crushes this dream that had all these infinite possibilities when the frontier was not settled or whatever the fuck they would say, and like the I also just watched Eddington. I finally saw Eddington, so I can talk about it on the show, and I don't want to spoil it if anybody. Have you seen it?
I have not. But in my defense, I have a 1-year-old. Andy Gittens has been texting me nonstop to go see Eddington. I'm sorry, Andy. I can't talk about it with you just yet. So, but please go ahead.
I would love your take on it.
Listeners, we can spoil it.
I'm not going to spoil it really plot wise or anything. It's just very much about this. So it's probably why Andy's texting you to go watch it, because it's and
it involves the sheriff is one of them, is basically the main character. Yeah,
the main character is a sheriff in like a small town during COVID who has this point of view, and like it kind of is megalomaniacal about it and stuff, but feels very like attacked and very sort of outnumbered by, you name it, right? Woke, Antifa, whatever the fuck, and kind of his point of view is that fantasy, right? That there's these hordes of people and they're wrong, and someone's got to have the gumption to like fucking stand up and put their cowboy hat on and you do something about this or whatever.
Yeah. And go on, please.
Oh no, I was just gonna the book kind of makes me because it's in a lot of ways it seems like it's about the 2010s, and you're talking about mass struggle, and it seems to me like there's kind of 3 flashpoints there with Occupy Wall Street, the 2014 Black Lives Matter, and then 2020, which kind of seems culminating in a way. Do you think there's a sense in which the guys we're talking about, like the sheriffs in the small towns, they're watching this grow, and do you think they view it in this? Do they view a trajectory, I guess, between like Occupy Wall Street, where it's a few kids in a park, 2014 things get a little more heady, and then 2020 was just a much greater in scale uprising, or at least that's the way it's sort of remembered in the popular consciousness. I'm wondering, what do you think that timeline? Do you think it had like kind of a cultural impact, like including in the far right world?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's an essay in the book where I infiltrate the New York City alt-right and get to know a bunch of the main characters. I originally published it under a pseudonym, just because I didn't want to be like the story. You know, I'm kind of a controversial person in my own right. You know,
Right.
and I just wanted to let the story kind of stand on its own. But
I
yeah,
remember when that came out, wondering who did it. Now I finally know. It was in Commune at 2019. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, so I got to know like a lot of the guys from that milieu, and they had been politicized in a bad way by Trayvon Martin, and then the Black Lives Matter movement, and it was the beginning of this kind of apocalyptic turn among white reactionaries in the United States. And yeah, I believe that they viewed that period from the first BLM, from the Trayvon Martin case, to culminating in 2020, as just like an escalating state of war on their way of life. And in a lot of ways, they were right. I mean, if you believe in the righteousness of white male power concentrated in a small set of hands, and if you believe that education should be, you know, patriotic dog shit and just homophobic, and you believe that anybody who isn't, you know, a cis het, you know, should stay in the shadows. Yeah, I mean, that was a period of time when the culture was really turning against you. But actually, what they're really adhering to is a much more classical American position, which is that like Jake was saying, of the small landowner, like the small man, who just who's crushed by the pincers of the elite globalists, which often becomes, you know, the Jews, right? It's a very common anti-Semitic position. So you have the pincers of the elites up top, and then the bottom is just the lower class motherfuckers. Hold on a second. There's a siren.
Which that's them right now.
Yeah,
they're coming for you.
Globalist.
No, and actually, that show Yellowstone, I haven't brought myself to write an essay about it, but it's just like the classic formulation of this position, and it is a completely fascist outlook, and it's actually a wonderful distillation of the mass base for fascism in the United States and anywhere. Yeah, like these small patriarchs who are just discouraged and humiliated by the fact that there's bigger fish than them, and all they want is local sovereignty, control over women's bodies, control over their workers, right? And interestingly enough, up until about 8 months ago, most of these guys would have said, and the last thing we fucking want is the federal government coming in and telling us what to do, X, Y, and Z. The notion that there were going to be troops in the streets, all the rest of it, from the federal government has been a figure of a right-wing obsession ever since desegregation. And now that Trump's doing it, I wonder if that's going to change this libertarianism. But it goes back a really long time.
I mean, nobody really, but especially the right wing, has no problem contradicting itself entirely, because it's an incoherent, schizophrenic like ideology at play. It's attempting to resolve things that are unresolvable. And like, I always think about that before even getting to like this shit with like the federal government, just the thing where people, I mean, I come from Texas, so there's like a lot of this, you know, individualism kind of going around. But the thing where these people hate the government, love cops. I'm always standing there going, but that is what the like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. But I think it's good to like kind of focus in on these flashpoints as like a little arc in the recent history, I think, because like it on some level, these things, like these ideas percolated and then brewed over, like you know, in Occupy, and then in 2014, then 2020. 2014, you sort of opened the book talking about like Ferguson and stuff like that, and I'm glad you did, because like I feel like that's like a kind of a lost one. Like, it doesn't come up that much, but it was huge for me. I remember specifically because it was about police, and it felt like really personal in a way that like Occupy kind of didn't, even though I was big into Occupy and all that stuff. Occupy was kind of abstract. It was about like, global economics and stuff like this. But the police is like such a Rorschach test, the institution of the police, because you're out here and you're looking at people and they're like for this thing and you're against it, and you're like, how are we both looking at this same thing? But I think that what we're talking about here with like the identifying with the police as the like in a right-wing person's mind, the sheriff is like the citizen, like he's the guy that all of this is happening to or whatever, and they think they could be too or whatever, which is weird because he's a fucking official of the state. But in our minds, obviously that's like the opposite. We're like, this is the person that's doing something to us or whatever. But like the way the police play into this, I think is we're now living in like a world that's fucking that's all the outcomes of people picking a way to look at that and then having it just keep going.
Yeah, and I think 2014, I agree with you that Ferguson doesn't get discussed nearly enough, because that was the opening salvo of what came to be called the Black Lives Matter era, and it was really dicey. It was a lot of people rioting, breaking the law, refusing orders to stand down. All the real peaceful kind of we shall overcome stuff came later. Ferguson was like real hot. People were shooting at the cops, and I feel like that has been kind of whitewashed out of that history. Another book that I had that came out kind of recently, it was called Skyscraper Jails. And in it, Jean Corti and I tell the story of basically how the rebellion in Ferguson turned into this like multi-billion-dollar diversity industry around like business-friendly kind of pro-capitalist Black Lives Matter programming in universities, workplaces, all the stuff that gets called woke now, and that turned 20% of American whites into like actual fascists because they had to sit through so much of their like fucking like PMC job or whatever. Like that stuff was actually like had like a counter-revolutionary relationship to the activity in the real righteous kind of street struggle activity in Ferguson. And yeah, it's been written out of the history. But also like on the flip side, like I have my job, like I teach criminal justice at a little state college outside Chicago. And my job would not exist if it wasn't for the Ferguson Rebellion. No, like I'm very openly an abolitionist. I'm a communist. I use my real name, unlike most people in that scene. So anybody I work with can type me in and, oh, hello, Phyllis, nice to see you, like listen to this stuff. And so, but nonetheless, I was hired to work in this criminal justice department because for this like kind of short window between 2014 and 2020, there was like, they were looking for like woke lords.
Yeah.
And that's that. I think that window was decisively shut last November. So that I can't be too hard on the liberal counterinsurgency because it's been very good to me materially. Meanwhile, the militants in Ferguson, befitting the white supremacist order of our society, a lot of them have suffered immensely, including just being murdered. Right? There's been multiple cases of some of the highest profile Ferguson activists showing up, just dead in the trunk of a car.
Right.
The cops obviously have no interest in investigating it, and so that's a struggle that needs to get more attention and more credit for its role in recent American history.
Yeah, and it's been like 11 years now, so it's like due for kind of a retrospective.
Yeah.
This is interesting, the distinction you make between like the real heat and then like the kind of kumbaya, like marching and like commodification of it all and stuff. Because like I remember like really Ferguson like really is like one of my big origin points. Like it got me really interested in stuff. But I was living in New York at the time, And like I remember like went out to stuff. I went out to this march and we marched up to Barclays Center, and the like everyone in the march did a coordinated, it was almost like a flash mob. It was everyone died at the same
Oh
time.
my God,
Like,
yeah.
went
Yeah,
I
down on
remember
the
that.
ground. And
Oh,
I
yeah,
didn't
I
know
was
we
there.
were supposed to do that. So I was just standing like, what the fuck just happened? Like, do I get on the ground? Everyone's like, yeah, you know. It was really funny. And I also remember like there were march. Wait, were you guys at that too?
I was at maybe I don't think I was at the one where we took the Queensboro Bridge, and I think shortly before that, I'll always remember there was this guy, this like white, you could tell he was like affluent guy who had like a scarf, and he was doing the dying thing, but like he was the only person doing it, and then he had kept yelling, "I can't breathe!" And he literally put his own hands around his neck and was like doing an act out for. It was a response to Eric Garner, I think. Yeah, because now I remember, you're right. It was Ferguson and then Garner, and that kind of like it put a lot of people out on the streets in New York City too. But it was definitely part of the same sort of wave there. Yeah.
There was also a moment when everyone was yelling at the Target that's over there at Barclay because some Target had something to do with something. I don't even remember. Like they were protesting it. And I had, before I went to the protest, just went and bought socks at Target. So I had like a bag with me. And it was like, yeah, fuck those guys. But I had to hide it in my backpack or whatever.
Well,
but
2020 Target was one of the sites in Minneapolis that was really looted. There's, and now, unlike I guess they had video back then on phones, but there was definitely a lot of like live streaming going on. But I wanted to ask about George Floyd, because you write a lot about that moment as well, and how it began. This has also been kind of lost. It was over a counterfeit bill, and I can't remember if it was actually counterfeit or not. But the clerk at the liquor store at the Top Foods had to get it became a dispute over a counterfeit bill. And I was thinking a lot about that because I'm from the Twin Cities, and that area of Minneapolis, like Chicago Avenue, like the liquor stores around there, I've known people who've worked there, and if your drawer is off by like a cent, you immediately get fired. Which has, I've had a lot of customer service jobs. I've definitely, my drawer has been off, and you get in trouble, but it's not the same kind of like intensity, right? And that's something I wanted to get your thoughts on, because there's so much literature about gender performance, and much of it is like very insightful and useful, but there doesn't seem to be a lot about workplace stuff, like specifically like customer facing, like labor, and the differences between, say, a liquor store where you're not there to be nice to people, you're there to get their money and make sure they're not using a fake ID. And then like a job I've had at like a movie theater or something, where the most important thing is to be prim and proper. I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that, and like how that ties into sort of the way that race and class unite in moments like 2020.
So the longest essay in the book, and the one that gives it its title, is "Every Fire Needs a Little Bit of Help." I wrote it for a publication called Endnotes to commemorate the 2-year anniversary of the rebellion. And when I was writing that, I dug around and I found different accounts of the trial of Derek Chauvin. And one of the witnesses that testified was actually this clerk who had called the cops on George Floyd. And what I discovered was that you're actually completely correct. This dude didn't give a shit about whether Floyd was passing a counterfeit bill. But if he had accepted a counterfeit bill, it would have actually come out of his pay.
Right.
So that was the really draconian policy that they had. And so you had this guy who was like, man, he's like, I don't care if this guy is ripping off my boss, but I can't afford the $20. That's probably working for like 2 hours for free, Yeah. And it was actually like, there's a lot of people who call the cops on other people are rightfully demonized in America, but this is somebody who basically like he went and got his manager. He's like, man, I don't know what to fucking do. You know, this bill looks funny. I don't want to be on the hook for this. You know, but he was haunted by that decision.
Yeah,
he was really broken up about it, that he had played a role in precipitating the end of this man's life.
And then the story, just the broad strokes of the story, everyone just hears that this guy did that, and that it was his decision.
Yeah, like who's this fucking Karen, you know? But
that's interesting from like a labor perspective, because like it's just making me think about like the tipping thing. Like when people complain about like, oh, I went to Jamba Juice and then they turned the iPad around and asked me for a tip, and they don't understand like the face of the interaction is a worker. It's not the person who decided not to pay them enough and to implement tipping, because tipping is the owner not wanting to pay the workers. It's asking you to subsidize the workers' pay, but like that, just a little bit of distance like that is just provided by there being a tiered system of management and owners and workers and shit like that, puts like the worker gets thrown under the bus, you know? That's like a really sad instance of it, really extreme instance of it too, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's actually like a really good encapsulation of where we're at socially right now in the US, where you just have millions of people at the absolute bottom of the social ladder, just forced to fight with each other over the stupidest shit. But it's very real. It's material, and they're fighting often at the behest of bosses, you know, landlords. I remember when I was a mover, a much younger man, I used to think it was cool to like fight with people who were like blocking our spot that we wanted to park the truck in, or like fight with the doorman, like fuck with the building guy on the way out. And one time, one of my coworkers, this guy Nick Olson, who was wiser than me, at least at the time, was just like, hey man, I've come to a decision. I am no longer going to fight other workers on behalf of our bosses. And he like really shamed me into just being nice.
That's funny. Yeah, but it takes a moment to learn that, right?
Yeah.
Where should we go from here? I also went undercover inside of the alt-right by doing stand-up comedy in New York City during these years we're talking about. Unintentionally undercover in the alt-right, but I did meet all of them. That's where the Proud Boys came from. Gavin McGinnis being a failed comedian out there. What is there anything to learn from being around these people? I mean, other than I guess what we're just sort of like just sort of guessing at here with their point of view.
You know, the essay that I wrote, it came out like, I wrote it 8 years ago. I think it came out 7 years ago. The conclusion that I basically came to was that these are people who are just resentful and see nothing in the future worth liking, and see nothing in the society that speaks to them. And if they don't get won over to the left, they're going to wind up in the right. Which is, you know, that's 1 second. I get this siren's killing me.
No, it's adding, you know, a good thematic
flair.
Yeah.
It's like rap music. It's in there for
so I had this basic line at the time, which I guess I still have on paper or whatever, which is just like, there needs to be a left politics that answers to this kind of unpolished resentment that people feel that towards our social institutions, you know, towards their indoctrination in schools, towards, you know, the direction they see our society going. So that's basically the line. I mean, I'm not sure how hot I am on it anymore. I mean, I think a lot of this, it's just garden variety white settler resentment. I'm not sure it can be appeased as much as just like fucking defeated, but as we're seeing right now that it's taken over the country in an unprecedented way. I mean, that is much easier said than done. So I feel like projects like Chapo Trap House and like you guys and like people who create spaces where you can be left without being like a really cringe kind of HR person, saying like, hey, y'all folks, I just want to check in and circle back and, they'll talk about my feelings and PayPal me and all this stuff. Like, where like, I think that projects that actually like allow people to be leftists and also be like real fucking people are important. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure if all these guys can be saved,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And well, I'm wondering, do you think it's the same movement now that is in power really? And, is practically taken over cultural hegemony and is definitely in the government. Is that the same thing that we were talking about in like 2017 with the quote unquote alt-right? Because that term hasn't been, you don't hear it as much anymore. People like Richard Spencer are now, I don't know what he's doing. I think he's like trying to be a liberal now. So if a while ago,
Ukraine flag in his bio now,
right?
His name,
yeah, which is not to say, you definitely white supremacists who like Ukraine and white supremacists who like Russia as well. There was a sense a little bit ago that like, well, Antifa won, right? These fascists were defeated. They were doxxed in a lot of cases. Was that premature? And like, is it the same sort of movement we were fighting back then that is now like in the wings of the White House?
100%. They just won. Okay. No, I saw an interview with Enrique Tarrio recently where he was like, oh, why don't you see the Proud Boys in the streets anymore? Like, what do we have to be upset about? Right? Like, if I was a Nazi right now, I would just join ICE.
Right.
Like, you can just, you don't have to go into the woods and shoot guns with your fucking other closeted male buddies or whatever. You can just literally be a fascist stormtrooper in the United States, terrorizing non-white people. Like, and like the smart,
you don't have to make it your own.
What's up?
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, like the smart ones disappeared into like the Republican Party. Guys like Spencer, like he was the victim of just like coming a little bit too soon. But I think when the history of that movement is written, he will be seen as kind of like a martyr because he put himself out there as a public figure. I mean, after he was doxxed by Darryl Lamont Jenkins, but he put himself out there and was a lightning rod and was basically the tip of the spear, mainstreaming a lot of those kind of white nationalist ideas. And now, like, so he had to take the flak for it. He took all the heat. They got smashed. That whole operation got smashed after Unite the Right. But those guys basically kind of fell on their swords so that the movement that they actually stood for could win. And they've ended up just being just victorious beyond, I think, what any of them could imagine in their lifetimes with this new Trump administration. And like a lot of the younger folks, right, who were like, they didn't have the podcasts, they weren't getting doxxed, whatever, but they were just consuming that content, going to the marches and stuff. They're just like in power now.
Yeah. Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, Unite the Right as like that. I remember it's at the time it seemed like, well, this is maybe going to be like a semi-annual thing, and they don't have like it doesn't seem like there's an equivalent of that in 2025 now 8 years later. But as you're saying, like they don't need it. Yeah,
it's the RNC.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's just the official thing. They don't have to go make a little like, what do you call it? Like make them up separate column to all this shit. They're just in power. Right. So like, I don't know, back to something you were talking about with like our show and Chapo Trap House and like media stuff or whatever and like culture stuff. Like thinking about that with this lens put all over all of it and this timeline that we're talking about. I think I'm going to be pretty nihilistic about this because, you hear these stories. People like to say, like, I know someone who was a Nazi and then he found, whatever cool media thing. And now he's like into Bernie or whatever. And he's totally whatever turned around. And like, you hear these stories more than you see any proof or like permanent effect of this sort of shit. I think it's very much people like shows like ours, which thanks, cool. People like the fact that this is a thing. It offers something, but it doesn't really like fundamentally get to the root of any of this stuff. And like, I don't know. I mean, we like to imagine that politics are like these things that like flow throughout your entire being. When you're a communist, suddenly you're glowing red and you're, you understand you've been activated or whatever. But like, people still have pretty incoherent views. And I personally have come into contact with a lot of people who seem, under my estimation, to be in their mind like pretty much just still a far right, like reactionary thinker with a veneer over it because they got really into like a fucking alt media space that allows them in and is by nature of like selling you it's okay, we don't do the woke fucking spoons shit over here. You can be like you can be a real person and be edgy and stuff. That actually sort of takes precedent over any of the politics and stuff, and it just becomes about not being a cringe liberal, which that is actually that unrolls all the way into just being a fascist after a while, because it's all predicated on what you're not what you are. And in retrospect, now that we have these like further evolved Nazis and stuff, kind of like completely beyond the, at the beginning of the story, there's somebody who got bit by a zombie. Now they're the full zombie. You can't grab them and chop their arm off and go, you're not a zombie anymore. My guy saved you, right? It's like, if that was ever possible, it's fucking gone. But now with having all those people around, I just look at this and I'm like, this is like, I think this, was fun or whatever, but if we're going to continue working on trying to make a left thing happen at all, you have to look at this and go, we need to reassess whatever the fuck. I mean, you're just going to keep putting effort into trying to do this, like, I can turn an alt-right person cool by telling them they can be kind of racist while they're voting for Bernie or whatever logic. Like, it doesn't really work. What would, in my estimation, is missing is like an actual like project, like an actual, big cohesive movement, a communist thing of some kind that people can actually like attach themselves to and generate consciousness from, and like make a lifelong project out of trying to get smarter from. And that, for a lot of reasons, is not fucking happening. I just asked for the world, asking for that. So we're just stuck in the space where we're like, well, in absence of that, I guess we'll just try to just offer something, a little different, that's kind of shaped like the alt-right. Honestly, it's like it's not that dissimilar to what the fucking Democrats are doing right now with like buying influencers and trying to make them into like a left Joe Rogan or whatever. It's the same kind of strategy, and it doesn't really work. So like, I don't know, as somebody who like makes media and like is in culture and arts and stuff like that, I often just feel like powerless. Like, I mean, I guess we just ride this out and just sort of like make jokes along the way as we get like flushed down the fucking toilet, I don't know. How do you feel? You think there's any way forward? I mean, I guess we just kind of talked about it, but it just seems like these people are they're monsters, and it's like there's no coming back, right?
Yeah, I know. I appreciate you pushing back a little bit on that. The anti-woke stuff is really abysmal. And it was like, I can't tell you how many times I found myself in spaces where it's like a bunch of white people, and yeah, you make a few jokes about woke leftists, and then you're just like making fun of black people. And you're like, oh, this got really sketchy really fast.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah, like even talking about like grifters.
I mean, I
a lot. Go on, sorry.
I was just gonna say I've had a lot of contact with these people. Specifically, it became a thing that I was like, kind of, they all hate me or whatever. And so I keep meticulous notes in my mind on this stuff. And you start to notice like it's it's all, I mean, it looks like a fucking frat house, but they're with like Bernie shirts on or whatever. It's a bunch of white people, and you know, they keep like, you know, if it was all white people, it would be easy to be like, hey, something's going on here. You're just expressing this like racism thing. So there's like this system of like tokenization that happens where like, you know, someone who wants to get ahead, who's networking and, you know, really socially savvy, who is from a marginalized group, so it sort of starts to run interference for them, and then it just like repeats itself over and over again, and you get this thing that looks, it's like a naturally forming like, you know, pyramid type thing that it doesn't look that much dissimilar than how power structures form elsewhere outside of a supposedly like left project or whatever. And I don't know, I think about that stuff and I'm like, well, man, I mean, how do you not do this then? If we're kind of always organizing by power, and these things are just subtly working their way into, you know, the shape of the fucking little communities that we're building, probably as an outcome of the material base of reality, this, you know, capitalist system we live in. Even if we're big anti-capitalists, we're still kind of just recreating like all these systems and stuff within it. I mean, how the fuck do you get out? Do you make a chat? You make a better Chaz chop, or what? Like, what do you do? You know, to get around this?
Oh man, no, I'm right there with you. This is such a demoralizing moment, and you know, if you're someone who really hates me right now and you're watching this and it's bringing you satisfaction, just fucking enjoy it. You know, it's not gonna last forever. We will bury you, but yeah, enjoy enjoy this W. Jesus Christ, I'm so fucking demoralized. And yeah, it's like, to your point, I feel like I'm looking back on projects that I've been a part of, even stuff that I thought was cool. It's almost like if you get a bunch of people together and most of them are white and the guiding thread is just like resentment and anger, it's just going to go somewhere really dark. And
Yeah.
I think maybe that's just like all the more evidence for like the basic kind of activist wisdom that you need to have, like some kind of positive project that you're working on, some kind of forward facing, future oriented goal. Being against things is just, it's no substitute for having a vision. I feel like protest politics, you know, I don't completely agree with the Vincent Bevins book that everybody loved like last year, the like If You Burn whatever book. But he makes the point that just like protest politics generally don't have any strategy. They're generally oriented around just being against things, and they create this political vacuum that just inevitably gets filled by something else. And I try to grapple with this at the end of the book, actually, the Every Fire book, in talking specifically about how 2020 failed. And I have a hard time with some of my contemporaries, you know, who write about this stuff from a communist perspective, because usually what they want to do is find like a villain. It's like, oh, it was going to be a revolution, and then the black counterinsurgency came in the form of these like nonprofits and like reverends and church ladies and stuff, and they told everybody to stop rioting and go home, and they listened. And sure, that happened. I mean, it's objective, right? Yeah, Jana and I wrote a history about kind of how that stuff got funded, but those church ladies and reverends can't stop a revolution if it has momentum. What they can do is they can insert themselves.
Looking for one isolated factor is like not a good way of solving a problem. These are processes, right? So like when you notice, you know, the tendency for liberals to co-opt parts of left movements and neuter them and stuff in the process, like you can get really mad about that and make your whole personality that you hate fucking liberals. But the thing is, that's never not going to happen. You're going to have to look at this and expect that to happen every time, and then try to like improve upon what allowed that to take effect or affected as much as it did or whatever. And it's like a big, you know, cohesive thing. It's not just like, because that's like a fairy tale for a kid, like that there's everything would have worked except for this one villainous thing. Right? That's how the right wing thinks about stuff. That's conspiracy theory thinking. That's how you get to eventually it always just being the Jews, you know. There's no flying the moon. It's all
in the first day or two of the George Floyd Rebellion, there were people going around in Minneapolis being like, no, stop, don't do it. Think of the children, and nobody fucking listened to them because there was dynamism, there was excitement. People had a plan, they were carrying it out. Right. And then as the rebellion kind of started to lose direction, those voices got louder because people they needed some kind of sense of why they were doing what they were doing, what they should do, so on and so forth. And so I tried to grapple with that in the book, and I tried to challenge people with like a revolutionary left orientation to come up with a more positive kind of political orientation to these moments. Like, we know what we're against, right? But the problem is, you run through the list of shit that you hate, and then you get to the last one, and usually it's each other. And in the meantime, we have not articulated any kind of positive vision for the world we want to build, much less the intermediate steps bridging where we are right now to get there. And so I'm not saying that I have the fucking answer, if anything, I'm pretty black-pilled right now. But that's kind of where the book leaves off.
Yeah, I mean, it does kind of like to what you were saying earlier, like we're going up against the most powerful entities in maybe the history of the world. So if we're expecting to like overthrow that in a year, I guess it's just not going to happen, even with a really good plan. But that kind of brings me to something I wanted to ask, maybe as we're running out here, about you have an essay on Noel Ignatieff or Ignatieff. I do want to get your answer on the correct pronunciation because I always butcher that. But he's the author of one of my favorite books, How the Irish Became White. He's somebody, especially younger people, should be familiar with. He was a revolutionary communist. What should people know about Mr. Ignatieff or Ignatieff?
Yeah, I think Ignatieff.
Ignatieff, great. Okay.
Yeah, so I have an essay in the book. He was a friend of mine. I got to know him in the last decade or so of his life. His political involvement went back to the 1950s when he became involved in the Communist Party and a series of kind of hard Stalinist splits from the Communist Party. So he was... by the time the New Left kicked off, he was a few years older than the average kind of SDSer, and he had gone and become a factory worker. Now, he came from what he considered a middle-class Jewish background and was culturally very distinct from the people that he was meeting in the factories. And that's just that's something that he had in common with virtually everybody of that era from the New Left who went into the factories. But he nonetheless was dedicated to advancing a distinctly proletarian point of view in communist politics. And this led him basically to develop a theory around the racial division of labor in the workplace that actually lives on, much to his chagrin, as white privilege theory. And he wrote a lot about how much he hated what that was turned into by what he called the diversity industry. But at the time, organizing in factories in Illinois and Indiana in the mid to late 60s, early 70s, Noel came to the conclusion that the only way forward for workplace militancy was the white workers who constituted the middle and upper ranks of the workforce lining up behind the demands of the black and brown workers at the lowest positions in the company, who got the lousiest jobs. They had the least seniority. They had first fired, as is still the case many places today. They were kept out of the more skilled jobs. And Noel's argument was, this is actually a practical matter for wage and class struggle. He wasn't saying that white people need to check their privilege because it makes them a good person or whatever. You don't give something up as a sacrifice. What he was saying is the racial division of labor in the workplace is actually impeding us from waging class struggle. White workers are being bought off with these little fucking perks, and they are being made to feel solidarity with their white bosses instead of solidarity with their black and brown coworkers, and that needs to be attacked head on. And because Noel was a student of American history and ultimately became a historian in his own right, he drew from the work of W.E.B. Du Bois and the magisterial Black Reconstruction in America, which is a fantastic book that all of your listeners should check out, that argues basically that this color line, which pitted white workers against their black coworkers and placed them in solidarity with their white bosses and white masters, was basically the story of American history. And that until that white solidarity is broken, white workers will continue to suffer. So that in that formulation, letting go of white privilege, checking privilege, or whatever the fuck you want to say, is not an exercise in liberal do-gooding, sacrifice, whatever. It is a practical matter of advancing the struggle. And so Noel worked on that. He was involved in a group called the Sojourner Truth Organization, which enough has been said about them in recent years. And then in the 90s, he became like an academic. He got into Harvard somehow. He was such a charming guy. He didn't even have a bachelor's degree, and he got into a graduate program at Harvard.
Damn.
And he started a journal called Race Trader, which pushed this like real hard line against white solidarity, called for the abolition of whiteness, which has been much misunderstood over the years. The right wingers are fucking obsessed with him. If you type his name in his Twitter right now, somebody definitely tweeted about Noel in the last hour and about how there's this Harvard professor who wants to kill all the white people. Noel was a Harvard professor for like a year in like the 90s, and he's been dead for like 6 years. I wish he was still a Harvard professor who wanted to kill white people, but he's long dead. They're positive.
That's not even what that means, though. The abolition of whiteness, right? That's like a misreading on their part.
Oh, of course. I've
we have to dye our skin.
I've gone back and forth over the question of whether it's like a bad faith misreading. I think there's some people out there who just like aren't that fucking smart and are like, "Whoa, this Jew wants to kill me," and my source is this infographic that somebody posted. You know, the abolition of whiteness is the abolition of this social clique that came into being at a certain point historically, right? And Noel tells that story and how the Irish became white. He tells the story of how the Irish joined that clique, right? And the argument basically is like whiteness is this, we say social construct, which nobody knows what that fucking means, but whiteness very much is this, it's this kind of club that different nationalities, ethnicities have been able to gain access to over the years, generally on the grounds of being opposed to the freedom and dignity of black people. And that actually the net impact of this club is disastrous to the vast majority of the people in it, because it maintains a world where private property and power are concentrated in a very small set of hands to the detriment of just about everybody else. And so I met Noel like around Occupy Wall Street era, and we started a project together called Hardcrackers: Chronicles of Everyday Life. Oh yeah. Which is it's a fun project. I don't work with them anymore, but it's still going on. And it's a more like kind of creative, kind of more prose oriented, kind of creative nonfiction oriented publication aimed at taking kind of the key themes and preoccupations of Race Trader and illustrating them as they unfold in American life. And you know, I love those people. You know, Mike Morgan, John Garvey, Jana, Gear, Chloe, Steve, Justine. They've edited, actually, half of the essays in this book were edited by those people because they published them in Hardcrackers. So I'm really thankful to all them.
Cool. Yeah, how the Irish became white is that was when we did a podcast about Sinners. That was what we crossed it over because I felt like there was some of it in the movie, intentionally or not. I don't know if he read that book, but the whole vampire, what do you call it, thrall trying to absorb everyone and are about these heavy-handed racial things. Seemed like it to me, at least it was fun to riff about or whatever. But great book.
That was a tough movie for me.
Really?
Oh my god.
Now that I got some distance from it, I'm not. Yeah, I understand people that like didn't like it and stuff. It kind of had some weird, clanky storytelling points and stuff. What did you like it or not?
I mean, it's a very conservative movie. It's like I went and saw it with a buddy of mine who happens to be a black man who just married and had a child with a white woman. And when we walked out, he said, "Why did all of my friends tell me that I was going to love this movie about why miscegenation is bad?" It's a very conservative movie. It's just it appeals to the absolute worst instincts of people in America right now. It just posits this notion that there's no solidarity possible between white and black people. And the history of music, I think, is particularly offensive in that it posits rock and roll as this like product of the black essence going back to Africa or something, which is like, that's like what a Nazi who doesn't like rock and roll thinks. But in reality, it was produced by the dynamism between black and white folk cultures.
Interesting.
Yeah, I just, honestly, it's the perfect fucking document for the year in which just about everybody in America is a fascist, whether they know it or not. And I think that is the woke movie for the year we all became fascists. Fair. It's a movie, so it's, all readings are valid in my opinion. It does actually. I mean, but my friend Tony I had on the show made the same argument you just made, but he's black, and he was like, "That's why it's good," You know what, Tony? I agree with you, man. So that is we could do a whole other fucking hour on that, but I won't keep you too much longer. Jarrod, thank you so much for coming by again. Let everyone know where they can pick up the book and all that, or where they can steal it if they're anarchists, right? Yeah, it would be like when Chumbawamba told everybody to steal their record, and it got put behind the counter at the record store with the gangster rap records.
That would be cool if they did that with your book. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just happy. I'd be happy if anybody fucking sold it anywhere. But yeah, put it behind the counter, put it on the shelves. Just.
Have you considered like Home Depots in like fire, starting site, or like next to the timber and logs?
Yeah, camping.
At this point, yeah, I gotta drum up the readers any way I can get them. My mother asked me recently if I was making any money off my books, and I said, "Well, not yet, Mom." She's like, "Well, you've been doing it for fucking 15 years."
Oh man, I mean they don't know, they don't understand that there's no economy left. There's no jobs. You can't make money selling books, right? You just have to be in it for the love of the game, I guess, unless you write fucking like Anne Rice novels or something, or Harry Potter or Twilight, but you're not gonna. I hope you make like
with a hot enough take. If you're got something really provocative, like if you published Sinners is Fascist, then I think that would definitely turn a profit.
Yeah. People buying it.
Well, that's what I'll do next time. Next time I come on the show.
Cool.
All right. Well, we'll have
and then hopefully. And hopefully by then you'll have seen Eddington, so we can get the Jarrod take on that as well.
Always a pleasure, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Likewise. Okay, that's. I guess we should do plugs here at the end of the show. I don't have anything coming up. Thank you for coming to Laugh Block, the comedy show I do, Lyric Hyperion. What the hell do I got going on that I need to promote? I don't know. Just listen to the show, and if you like us, sign up for our Patreon. And you're allowed to say all the racial slurs behind the Patreon wall. We're very anti-woke here, and it's going to make communism happen. That you can do that back there. Bonus episodes, paid fucking Discord, all that shit. Yeah, I think that's it. Anders, you got anything?
At Anders Lee here on social media. Yeah, our Patreon. We also have another episode that's just about how the Irish became white. We did for like 4 years ago now. Wow. And if you're in New York City, coming out to paid protest this Friday.
Anders was white.
Yeah, I change back. Come out to paid protest New York City at Bushwick it'll be at Silo at 7:30 September 5th. Got a lot of great comics on the show. I'll put a link in the description.
Cool. All right. And Jarrod, are you online at all, or is it just the book?
I am blissfully off all that bullshit, but thank you for your service. You can check out, just type my name into Google. I got a bunch of books. And hey, shoot me an email, if you're reading any of the stuff and you like it. I have no way of telling.
Cool. You can email Jarrod like strong bad. Okay, that's it. It's finished.